It's another Waiting for Next Year.com podcast, and it's a man with many names. I don't even know what to call. I don't even know what to call you anymore. Jeff Nomina.
Yeah, I made the switch from Nominatar to Sportsnom, and I didn't realize how mad it would make everyone. And now I'm just so happy with myself.
Yeah, you're more of a reluctant, accidental troll.
Yeah, I didn't really expect anyone to care or notice, but then when it made people mad, it was pretty thrilling, actually.
That's so you now know what it's like to be a troll and really kind of get a rise out of people. Have you always had that in your blood?
No, but it's kind of a high. I kind of want to explore this now. Maybe this is the path I should take.
Yeah, I think you should talk crap about the Cavaliers tomorrow night. Maybe into Thursday. Just see how the local fans take the coat turn, the turncoat.
I'll become a villain. I'm going to be a heel.
Yeah, exactly. So this was I predicted that this was going to be a super weird night on Twitter because you would have Women's World Cup, which would easily annoy the crap out of people just because people hate anything different that hits their Twitter timeline. It seems. You combine that with wrestling, you combine that with all the different things that happen on Monday nights, and it was just sure to be like logging off now.
Yeah, like I said, the MLB draft is tonight, so all the the baseball guys are out in full force too. So yeah, it's a busy one. The timeline was refreshing a little faster than I was able to keep up, I think.
So I don't think I'm breaking too much confidence when I say that you're a man with a daughter. And it strikes me as odd that, and I don't think this is a straw man, but a lot of the people who look to discredit soccer will double down on their discreditation. However, I made that word up. They'll double down on discrediting the sport because soccer fans can actually watch the female version of that sport.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, like, if soccer was any good, women's soccer would be like the WNBA, and it would be garbage. But it's not.
No, not at all. No, yeah, see, I never really thought about that. That's interesting, though. The whole soccer thing is an interesting thing in itself, because it's a cool sport, it's an interesting sport, but the people who are into it are really into it. And I almost wonder if that turns people off a little bit.
Yeah, it still kind of like has this niche status, even though it's the biggest game in the world. Here in this country, it's like the early days of sushi. Everybody loves sushi now. But there was a time where you were a weirdo if you liked sushi.
And I get why people always think it's going to take off. Like, it feels like it, and maybe it's just because there's so much crossover with the sports that I follow. But man, it seems like when you're on Twitter, everybody's watching it. Like, I feel left out there, but then I go back into the real world, and I don't know anybody who, at work, nobody's talking about the big soccer game from the weekend.
Not even the World Cup last year?
A little, but even that was very like, hey, this is the first time I watched soccer since the last World Cup kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and this day and age, you can have bigger niches, but nothing's ever going to take over the world. I think the closest thing we have is probably what we're seeing in these NBA playoffs. The TV ratings were ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. I think I heard we had like an 81 share in Cleveland on the game or something, just outlandish. I mean, that's just absurd. And it's funny, going into this game, I heard some people kind of complaining about, this wasn't going to be a marquee matchup, there weren't going to be ratings, and they're just blowing through the roof. So this is obviously a matchup that people wanted to see. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, well, and you've got the new blood of the Golden State Warriors and certainly the reigning MVP and the Splash Brothers, and they've got kind of a preceding reputation that people, I think, especially, I'll be honest, I didn't watch, except for Sportscenter type highlights, I didn't watch a lot of Golden State Warriors this year.
And they're on late, they're West Coast teams, so they have a lot of late starts. So, I'm a big basketball fan. I didn't watch a ton of Warriors games other than, the big prime games, the Sunday games, some of that stuff that they'd get. But their games start so late, it was kind of hard to watch them in that case, too.
Yeah, and you really don't get a sense for who they are as a team or how they play or how entertaining a style they might play until you actually get to watch complete games. That's one of the things that we've really lost, or this might be the crotchety old man in me now, but I feel like when we started watching Sportscenter in high school and college, that they still kind of told a game story, but now the highlight packages are even shorter and less intensive.
And I might have actually told this story. I'm not even sure I might have told it on this podcast before, but I went back and watched the SportsCenter highlights from Marino's fake spike game.
I don't remember if you ever told the story, so we'll pretend like it's new.
It was like 8 minutes. Like, it was like, here's a big third down stop that the Dolphins got, and here was a big incompletion. I mean, it was like 7-8 minutes on one game leading up to that fake spike. And that wasn't a big game. It was just a regular season game. It's crazy how different SportsCenter is now than what we all kind of grew up on.
And it's hard to understand because things just are the way they are, and they've developed to the point that they've developed to, it's hard to figure out if it's just different and we're older with an older perspective, or whether there is like a definitive better or worse.
I don't remember Talking Heads growing up, like, at all. Like, I mean, we all loved Craig Kilborn and all those guys, and Dan Patrick. I don't remember the Talking Heads that would come in at all. And I think that's really kind of ruined it for me. And maybe it is the crotchety old man thing, but it doesn't provide any insight. Those guys aren't there to teach you about the game. It's not like it's, Jaws breaking down a play. It's just guys, well, this team wanted it more, and this team had more heart, and all that kind of stuff.
See, do you think the talking head thing leaks into the actual highlight packages too? I mean, because obviously, first take is first take, but I guess you're right. I hadn't really thought about the fact that the talking head thing leaked into the actual SportsCenter.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think it has. I think they highlight the stories that are easy to tell. If you're going to see a Yankees game, you're just going to see A-Rod's highlights. You're not going to see actual Yankees highlights.
Yeah. I think it does a disservice to the games themselves, but unless ESPN has that MLB property or that specific game, there's no incentive really for them to tell the story in a way that benefits Major League Baseball anymore.
And what surprises me is that if you watch the NFL Network, I mean, it's a exact copy of SportsCenter. They're not breaking down games. Let's say
it was, because I heard that NFL AM was going to be just completely blown up, and they were going to start over because it was so awful.
I'd love to see that. I think it'd be interesting. I think NBA TV does a pretty good job of doing some interesting stuff, and they re-air games, and they just have guys talk over games and stuff. And I find it really, really interesting. But I don't know if there's a mass audience for that or not. I don't know if there needs to be a mass audience to the point of all these niche kind of things now. I don't know if it needs to be a mass audience.
Yeah, I don't think so. But did you ever watch NFL AM?
No.
It was astonishing to me how bad, and I'm not an expert by any stretch, but how noticeably awful the production was, and the way those guys would kind of, it was like there was no producer in anybody's ear, because they would kind of gab on their way in and out of breaks, and I don't know if it was a production choice or just like complete and lack of control over the set, but it was awful, whatever it was.
And that's just so surprising to me. I mean, that's the opportunity to highlight your brand. Here's me as a marketing guy, but to highlight your brand and to really make it look good. Like, why do you just want a bunch of guys talking about it? Like, why can't you find better things to highlight it there? I mean, geez, think about the NFL Films things that we grew up on. Those were incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And but even lower on the totem pole than that, it's a low hurdle to jump over just to ask the professional broadcaster who's bringing you in and out of break to not have people just kind of gabbing gibberish underneath them.
Right. That's pretty much 101, on video production kind of stuff. So yeah, it's crazy how little effort some of those get put into them.
All right, so buried the lead long enough. Cavaliers actually win a game. Did you buy into the hype that they couldn't possibly win a game?
So I've been pretty negative. Not negative, because I'm a huge Cavs fan. I just, Golden State had a historically incredible regular season, and they kind of flew through the playoffs. We're down. If we were at full strength, I think I'd pick us. I think it'd be a good series, but I'd pick us. But we're just so banged up, and so going into it, I thought there was a better chance that we'd get swept or lose in 5 games than there was that we'd win. I'll be honest.
And see, I was pretty confident that the Cavaliers could do exactly what they did in Game 2 in terms of just uglying it up. I thought it was really fortunate in some ways that the Cavaliers, the way they got hurt, they ended up with their best defensive team, minus Verjao, of course. And I still think it's rational that they're the underdog, and I think it's a very tough thing to imagine them winning the series. But at the same time, it drove me crazy that they could get so close, and that all of us, it's like that nobody else watched the rest of the playoffs and saw how banged up and how limited Kyrie Irving was for the entire playoffs, and the Cavaliers won in spite of him, including 2 games against Atlanta. And so all of a sudden, this mythic proportion surrounded Golden State Warriors that on paper they were so much better that you just didn't even have to suit people up and play the games. It was just that much of a mismatch, and that never made sense to me. I got that the Cavaliers were underdogs, and I know, narratives are narratives, but I never bought into the Cavaliers being as drastic an underdog as everybody else kind of seemed to think, and I don't think I'm making that up.
Oh, no, they were buried. Nobody nationally was giving them a shot at all. Even locally, I think it was kind of tempered. We were all kind of like, yeah, I think maybe, we weren't overly strong in our convictions, and a lot of that was just people romanticized the hell out of Golden State, and they were incredible, don't get me wrong, all season. But yeah, I think we kind of romanticized it, kind of built them up to be maybe more than what they were. Not that they're not great, and I'm sure they're going to come out and have a couple games where they look great. But yeah, I think maybe we went a little bit overboard. But at the same time, how much more satisfying is this?
Oh, it's great. I love it. I'm loving absolutely every second of it.
It's just incredible watching this unfold. Like, if we were at full strength, it'd be a blast. And don't get me wrong, that'd be incredible. And I want to win any way we can. I wouldn't be complaining either way. But watching this team of just misfits and injured guys going on, David and Goliath kind of thing, it's just insane. I still haven't wrapped my head around it. I still don't know what's real. And that Shumpert putback in Game 1 is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. I still can't believe that didn't go in. Oh,
that one, yeah. I jumped in the air because I thought it went in. I thought for sure it was going in. I wasn't confident in LeBron's jumper. I'm not willing to judge him negatively for it because, LeBron will generally do the best thing that he has sitting in front of him. And that night, I will just believe that was the best thing he had in front of him. But that Shumpert follow-up jumper, I still can't believe it. He didn't knock that down.
And the thing about that LeBron shot is that I'm sure that's not the exact shot he was hoping to take. He was hoping to create a little bit of separation. We act like there isn't a defender in front of him. He was trying to get to a spot and step back and have a clean look at a jumper. And, to the credit, Iguodala was on him, and he didn't allow that. So it looked really bad, but I don't know what else you want in that situation. And, you give it to LeBron and hope he can create. Sometimes he can, sometimes, other guy makes a play. And, yeah, that was rough. But if that Shumpert shot going in just changes so much, it's incredible. And I don't want to sit here and complain because we came back and won Game 2 on their floor where they only lost 3 times all year. We're kind of in control of the series right now, as insane as that seems.
Well, and it was smart coaching too, because the Golden State Warriors decided on that last play that rather than bring the help and bring the double team, they were going to let Iguodala go one-on-one, and so they would rather have LeBron shoot that jumper than to bring the help over and have him find an absolutely wide open Shumpert or even Delly to have a wide open shot at the game winner. And you know what? They gambled and it paid off.
Right.
Sometimes that just happens.
Right. And in Game 2, LeBron went to the hoop. He did what we all said he should have done in Game 1. And guess what? The refs swallowed their whistles and, they got 5 guys hacking him on the arm, and I'm not going to say the refs are at fault, but it's just not a high percentage play to end the game waiting for a whistle like that. And we saw what happened. So I'm not going to kill him either way.
And I still can't believe that he didn't knock in that left-handed layup, even despite all the contact. Cause
I can't. And Tristan with the putback. I mean, there's just been so many close plays.
That's something that I think has been something that we haven't really talked a lot about, is just how badly Tristan Thompson, or how much he's been neutralized, let's say. I don't want to say he's played badly, but they've done a really nice job in terms of bottling up the kinds of things that he was able to do against Chicago and Atlanta.
Yeah, he had a big game one. He had a really nice game one, and I thought I read somewhere, and I'm not going to act like I'm an expert. I thought I read somewhere they were putting Bogut on him a lot, which is just a bigger body and a little bit harder for him to get around, and it was kind of hurting that. But he's still having a little bit of, they call it like gravity. Like, he's still pulling guys towards him. They have to account for him every time a shot goes up, and his switching onto Curry late. It's all these guys. I mean, if you go down the list, Shumpert and Deli and Tristan and Mozgov, they're all doing a lot of bad things, but also just playing their hearts out and doing just enough. It's just kind of crazy to watch.
Yeah, and you can count me among those who is not impressed by Tristan Thompson switching off and guarding either Klay Thompson or Steph Curry at the 3-point line. I know everybody kind of gets a little bit excited, moves a little bit closer to the edge of their seat when that happens, but it drives me crazy. They should never switch like that. Never, ever.
That's Tristan's big thing, is he's fast and agile enough to kind of get out and do some of that, but it doesn't mean it's ideal. And Blatt's had this weird thing all year where in the first half he uses Mozgov as a rim protector and, has him and Tristan out there, just lots of size. And then the second half, he just has to switch on everything. I don't really understand why there's such a change in philosophy, but I mean, that's why we had Kevin Love sitting in the fourth quarter for a lot of games this year. And that's why Mozgov did all the time. It's like he feels like the first half and second half have to be defended completely differently. And maybe that's sound strategy. I don't know, but it kind of drives me nuts how often, we have to rely on that. Or, Mozgov was having a huge game, and I get that there wasn't a perfect matchup for him out there last night, but they hit him on Iguodala there for a while, who's not a shooting threat, and he did some things. And when a guy's having that big of a game, I don't know that it's worth switching your strategy to switch these pick and rolls when you're found something else that's working.
All right, well, I have two theories on that, and they compete with each other, so I don't know which one is right. But first, I think that you can support David Blatt I'll start with a criticism. I think that sometimes it feels like David Blatt is matching somebody else's strategy rather than imposing his own. That's number one. That's the criticism. But on the other side, he's been really rigid in this lineup of as you said, sitting Kevin Love and playing Tristan Thompson in fourth quarters pretty much all season long. And so on the other hand, it's really consistent. And so I don't know, I put them on different sides of the scale, and I don't know where it balances out.
Right. It drives me nuts how often he lets the other team dictate lineups. I remember there was a game, we're playing San Antonio, and Love sat a huge part of the fourth quarter, and I remember complaining about it, and everybody was like, yeah, but who's he going to guard? And it's like, well, you don't take Kevin Love off the court because they put Marco Bellinelli on. That doesn't make sense. They don't get to pick that. You put Love out there because he's a top 15 NBA player, and he should be the one kind of dictating that lineup. And so, yeah, I think he reacts a little bit too quickly sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. You put Kevin Love out there, and then you make Golden State, just hypothetically, put out somebody who's a little bit worse on offense so that they can put somebody who's a little bit stronger on defense. Make them sacrifice something or think hard about something. And I don't know that it works like that just because Kevin Love is the better player, but in my mind it should work like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in that example, Kevin Love's good enough where you should be able to make that work. At no point should you be taking off a top 10, 15 player to match up with the other team's lineup.
And sure, he may have a little bit more trouble staying in front of somebody than Tristan Thompson, but when he catches a defensive rebound, you could be going back the other way for a quick two, which Tristan Thompson never gets. Right.
So I struggle, though, to complain too much about Blatt. I was very anti-Blatt earlier in the year, and, I mean, he's outcoached everybody we've played so far in these playoffs.
Oh yeah, I'm trying not to judge too much because I think that, and this isn't a criticism of Blatt like some other people would use it to be, but you've got a team with LeBron James. He's going to make a lot of decisions, and he would make a lot of decisions no matter which coach he played for. He would never fit with Popovich.
Right.
But people want to. Why can't some things just be the way they are without being a criticism of the coach? Why does everybody have to fit in a neat little box?
And I think we get obsessed sometimes. We're not running an offense right now. We're just letting LeBron pound it into the court and then, hoist a shot. But you know what? There's no turnovers when you do that. And then the Golden State can get in transition and the game slows down and guys get frustrated and it lets everybody else, who has to give every bit of effort that they have, rest a little bit on that end of the court. And I think, it's not just, hey, I didn't come up with anything else, LeBron, go do ISO. It's not like he didn't do his homework. I think that there's reasons to do that. Golden State murders pick and rolls, so why should we be trying to do pick and rolls every time? I think sometimes we want to see movement and passing because that's what we think it's supposed to look like. But I think he's kind of come up with something genius here.
Well, and we saw what he wanted to do when Kyrie Irving was still healthy enough to play. He was putting the ball in Kyrie Irving's hands some, but he just, and you're right about that pick and roll defense, he doesn't trust just anybody to hold the ball or dribble with the ball, and sometimes I think it's the detriment. But then again, the way I've been watching J.R. Smith dribble around in offensive sets, he's not a good enough ball handler to dribble around the Golden State defense, and it's painfully obvious.
Right. I mean, we're so limited, and that's what scares me about the rest of this series is that we've bogged them down. Our scheme has kind of slowed them down, thrown them off rhythm, but they're going to adjust. At some point, things are going to click for them, and we're just so limited in who we even have on that bench that it's going to be hard for us to come up with a plan B and a plan C, to keep matching what they do. They're just so deep. I mean, they have 10 guys, and we're playing, 7 right now?
Yeah, but let me be devil's advocate. I'm not so sure that you can figure out tenacious, ugly defense. If the Cavaliers run into foul trouble or the only way the Cavs can get beat in their ugly defensive ways is if they have miscommunications like they did in Game 1 and they leave people wide open. But as long as they stay at home and they continue to close out well, there's no way to figure it out unless the Golden State Warriors want to shoot from further away.
All right, I'm going to say something unpopular.
All right.
I think Delhi had a great game in Game 2, and I think he really does bother Curry some, but I don't think that's overly sustainable. I think Curry's going to go off, at least improve quite a bit, and that scares me a little bit.
Oh, it should. It should, and he should. I'd be shocked if he didn't go off at least one game. At least one game. But at the same time, I do think that I do think that playing physical. I mean, we've seen it happen to better players, or at least more experienced players than Curry.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I who knows? I mean, he might frustrate him. He might keep this going. And even if Curry has a couple big games, he might keep things muddied up enough that other guys aren't getting super involved, and we can continue this. It's just crazy how it's 1-1, and we've had 2 games to kind of look at this, and I still just don't think I know at all how this series is going to go. No,
and despite the gaudy stat lines, even LeBron's games have been weird.
Oh, yeah, he can't find his jumper. He hasn't had a game where he just comes down and can't miss. Where he's just raining jumpers and raining threes, taking heat checks and all that kind of stuff.
When he usually finds that across from somebody who gives him a little bit of breathing room, So if Kyrie starts a little bit hot, then all of a sudden LeBron's got a little extra room and he goes bonkers. But it's going to be tough for him to find that. Everything he does is forced right now, and you can't even blame him for forcing it.
Oh, right. I mean, it's all we have. It's our only shot. It's absolutely crazy.
It's such a weird thing, and I can't believe I'm enjoying it as much as I am because it's so weird. But I've got to give myself credit, and I never want to give myself credit because that's boring and obnoxious. But I was insistent on having a good attitude about this Cavaliers team from the word jump this season, and I've actually been good at it. For once in my life, I didn't get negative, I didn't get down. I was the, hey, be patient when they were 19 and 20. I don't even, it's unlike me. So when I say I don't know how I did it, it's because it's totally new territory for me. This is so weird.
And I know that was kind of your outlook on the Indian season this year too. So maybe it was just all across the board this year. Maybe. What's your Browns prediction? Are they going to be Super Bowl too?
Well, I don't think the Indians are going to be in the Super Bowl in the World Series. But I kind of was like, well, we'll see where they are in July, and maybe they can ramp it up. But no, my prediction for the Browns is that their defense is going to be really, really good. And other than that, I have no idea.
So, something that I didn't expect from this Cavs run, man, it's hard to cheer for good teams. Like, we've been complaining about winning good teams forever. This is hard. This is a lot of work. I'm stressed. I'm sweating all the time. I'm staying up all night. I'm reading about the Cavs all day. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I'd forgotten what an obsession it is with the late nights and constantly reading everything and then trying to form opinions and everything is so definitive. Every game is definitive. So if you read Adrian, and I forgot about this, but if you read Adrian Wojnarowski after every game, depending on who won, you'll think that the other team is doomed.
Oh, right.
It's so definitive.
Yeah, you have to come up with you have to have like all these predictions, and when you're watching the games, like, oh man, I feel like I needed a practice round or something. Like this has been insane, and maybe that's how teams are normally built. You go to the playoffs, and then you go to the next round, and you keep getting a little bit better. Going from 0 to 60 like this has just been insane. I'm out of practice. It's like in spring the first baseball game, and the first fly ball looks like a home run to you, and then it doesn't leave the infield. It feels like I'm not prepared. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. Every shot is a dagger, and it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a Matt Underwood joke in there somewhere, but I'm just gonna let it be.
Souvenir City.
Yeah, Souvenir Shitty. So let's talk a little bit of football because I think people probably remember you're a Dolphins guy.
Oh yeah.
Have you, as a Dolphins fan, given up on the whole predictions thing?
Well, they're easy because they're just going to go 500 and every year and just miss the playoffs at the end of the year. I think they'll be a lot better this year. I think 9 or 10 wins is pretty realistic.
Do you get sick of the prediction culture we've created, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you kind of go into a year after doing that with expectations, and it's just seasons never go like you think they're going to go. Everything changes. I mean, we're seeing that with the Cavs season right now. It's been like 4 seasons in one. We were going to be unstoppable, then we sucked, then we were unstoppable again, and Love was out and we were awful, and then we were great again, and then Kyrie got hurt and we were out again, and now we're great again. Yeah, I mean, like, it's been insane. So when you're trying to make predictions in October about what's going to happen, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of makes you think in those terms the whole time instead of just kind of enjoying the ride.
Well, and I think that they used to be fun, but then at a certain point the light goes on, or the light went on for me where I was like, oh yeah, I don't know anything. I need to stop pretending like I know things that I don't know. This is ridiculous. And I would feel bad when my predictions came out wrong. And why would I continue to do something where I know I can't actually do it and it makes me feel bad when I'm wrong?
Yeah, and with Twitter and blogging and everything now, we all kind of have to present ourselves as an expert. You're not just saying something off the cuff. This is going to be retweeted, 6 months from now and shoved down your face. And, and we are, we say things more definitive up front. And I don't think it's as much of just fun predictions as now we, make these things that we have to take very seriously.
Have you been attacked by some of the people who not attacked, but have you felt attacked by some of the people who dredge up old tweets yet?
I don't get retweeted like old tweets very often, which is surprising because I say so many stupid things. But it just drives me insane when I see it. I just hate it.
Yeah, because it's unfair. It doesn't allow for anybody to have any kind of feelings, time, and place that they might not feel long term.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think we also, in 140 characters, you don't say, "Oh man, I don't like that pick. I just think he's going to be a bust." You say, "Awful pick. He's going to be a bust." You're just much more definitive, so it kind of creates it from the start too. But I don't know. We're all just like, I don't know anything about these sports at all. It's just a hobby. It's fun to watch. I'm saying stupid things all the time. And so if you want to retweet it later or whatever, that's cool. I was wrong. I'm wrong way more than I'm right. So it's just not going to bother me that much.
Well, I think part of it's the development of Twitter, too. I think that a lot of us just treated it like a chat room back in 2010, 2011, and it's just clearly not that anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah, the search function just kind of ruined everything. I mean, you could just find way too many things in the past now.
And it's not a medium that was ever meant to be like that. I talk frequently about how much I'm going to hate podcasting in the future. It's so great right now because I do a podcast and I could say something really awful, and unless one of the 800 or 900 people who listen to this grab it and somehow trumpet it out there, and then somehow find a group of people who care enough that I said something awful, nothing's going to happen. Not the case with print. If I write something on Waiting for Next Year that's awful, and it gets past Scott, who makes sure that our quality is pretty good. But if I sneak something past Scott, and I could instantly become internet villain for a 2 or 3 day period. But in podcast form, because it's audio, because it's a limited audience, and there's no audio to text yet, and there's no search function, it's this temporary thing. It's like in a safe zone. But holy cow, I used to worry about this when I talked to Scott Rabb, because he had a high enough profile that something I could say in a podcast with him he's got enough haters too, that it might find its way to a place where I'm embarrassed or I'm an internet villain for a couple of days. But so far, podcasting's the best. Twitter's not that way. You could become an internet villain in a heartbeat.
And I actually tried to have some fun with it with the Indians this year. I kept saying that Swisher was going to hit 250 and 20 home runs. I think I even tried to start it as a hashtag, because that was never going to happen. It was never, ever going to happen. But sometimes it's just fun to be positive and to, throw out crazy homer predictions and just, have fun with it. We take it really seriously. We take Twitter really seriously, and Facebook and everything else. Sometimes it's just, hey guys, remember how dumb this is, and, say stupid stuff. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I'm going to sound crotchety and old, but I miss the days when it was more of a temporary thing that just kind of floated by and nobody looked it up. The tweets were never supposed to have the lasting power, the staying power that they seem to have now.
And 2 years from now, we'll probably be on some new app. Twitter's probably fairly close to its drop-off point, and the way things are going with Snapchat or Periscope or any of these kind of things, a lot of it now is less permanent. So maybe the next thing will push that again.
Yeah, I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, who he's like a marketing guy now, but he was asked which of the social networks that we're kind of using or still around are the next Friendster or MySpace. And his two answers were obviously Google Plus, which is one, which, Google could just abandon that for something else. That it's the fourth or fifth iteration of stuff they've tried anyway. And then Tumblr. But I don't know. I don't know enough about Snapchat and some of those other ones, first of all, because I'm old. But second of all, I think maybe Facebook and Twitter finally implanted themselves enough with password recognition, but I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional.
I definitely think so for Facebook. Twitter's an interesting one. I don't know what I think Twitter's going to be in 2 years. I feel like we've gotten to a point where it's there's just so much more trolling, and it's just, like you said, what it used to be to what it is today is very different.
Yeah.
It's so much more combative now, I think. It's kind of a battle. Like, you go on and you're going to say something and 5 people are going to attack you for it, or push back, and it's just a lot of arguing, or it just is very different than it was a couple of years ago.
It'll probably be indecipherable from what it is today. It'll just be so completely different. They'll try and turn it into Facebook and fail.
Everybody tries to turn it. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Google Plus. That's one I haven't played with much at all. It sounds like when I read the features, like really nice, and I just never could get into it.
Yeah, it's that old joke, if you have the first telephone and there's only one other person in the world with a telephone, they just never got the adoption somehow, even though their install base on Gmail is ridiculous.
But I haven't checked it in a year probably.
Yeah. Well, but you've probably checked a Gmail account if you're like everybody else I know.
All the time.
It's sitting right there in the upper right hand corner. It's amazing that you haven't checked it, because I'm the same way though.
Yeah, but like you said, nobody uses it enough to go there, and it kind of came at a time where Twitter and Facebook, I think, were pretty big, so there was no need. It's not like it didn't come out at a time when people were looking for something. It came out at a time when everybody was pretty busy with all of the other. They were already having trouble handling all of the accounts that they were running.
Yeah, and you're right. They might have even improved on a couple of things that Facebook did, or improved on a couple of things that Twitter did, but they didn't actually redefine anything or do anything different.
It reminds me of, Tidal came out, or I think Apple made some big announcement about a music thing today, and it's like, well, that's great, but you're not giving me something that Spotify isn't. Like, you're not changing the model that I'm already using. You just want me to come over there and use that because it's new and different, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I think we were kind of at that point with Facebook and Twitter when Google Plus came out.
The whole Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify thing is fascinating to me, because I get I get all the dynamics between all the services, but I think you're right. I think Spotify is there. I'm one of the few people, I think, first of all, I don't think they charge enough money for Spotify, and I'm ducking so people don't throw things at me. But like, compared to what I used to spend on music, Spotify is just a bargain.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane how cheap. I spend, I think, $15 a month so that my wife and I can both have an account. We have our own accounts, and that's one album, and I listen to music all day, every day, on my phone, at work, everywhere I go.
And some of it's music that you already own, but on a going forward basis, it's going to be less and less of music you own and music that you're not buying.
Oh, I still buy vinyl. I think that's kind of a different experience, but I haven't bought like a CD or something off iTunes in a long time.
Yeah, no, neither have I. I still buy, and I say this, I buy music from people when I can shake their hands. So like any bands that I see, if I enjoy their show, and I've got an extra $6 or $7, I buy. But even then, I might not even listen to it. I might just look them up on Spotify later. But I'm trying to be nice and give them some gas money or whatever.
Yeah, I try to still go to a lot of shows. Not a lot. I mean, I've got a kid, but I try to go to shows for the big ones that come around to make sure that I'm still supporting in some way, because it is awful. I mean, they're getting nothing from those, but they also get a ton of exposure. I mean, I listen to so much more music than I ever would if I had to buy all those albums.
No, that's absolutely true. But I guess my point is that would it bother you tremendously if you had the family plan and it cost $19.99 a month, and they offered a slight discount off of that for an annual subscription, or something simple like putting a tip jar out for new releases? I don't know, or allotting. All right, so in your subscription, there's $3 a month that goes towards new stuff that you listen to, because I think that we're going to have to start seeing some a weighted average toward newer stuff rather than continuing to pay out on Dark Side of the Moon. It doesn't make sense. Dark Side of the Moon has been paid for over 100 million times over.
Yeah, that makes
probably
sense.
Even more than that. But if an indie band from Seattle makes a new album that just costs them $24,000, they gotta pay that back. They don't have 37 years to pay back on that. They're like professional athletes. Their time frame might be much shorter unless they are one of the lucky ones with a big hit single.
Right, and they're making a fraction of a cent for every time you listen to it. So even though I listen to an album 20 times, I'm not those guys aren't getting anywhere on that.
No, they're really not. Although they're doing better if they don't have a record label in between them and
That'll
Spotify.
probably be something that'll blow up here soon.
Yeah, it's already started in a major way. There are a lot of bands that don't even bother from the get-go signing up with a label.
Right, a lot of guys they start their own label. I'm doing air quotes, and just kind of release things through that. There's just a lot of different ways to kind of circumvent that. That's definitely the way that seems to be going.
All right. Well, we solved all the world's problems yet again.
Again.
I wish there was a
consistent.
Disney Junior thing we could have talked about, but
I just had to go buy some Sheriff Callie toys for my daughter tonight. So
it's amazing. You're a man without cable, but you're still buying cable toys.
Oh yeah, they've got me. They've got me just hook, line, and sinker. It's so bad.
Don't ever let them know that Disney World exists, because you're screwed.
We're going in November. It's over for me.
You're going in November?
Yeah. You should see it. I have a spreadsheet with all the rides of every park broken
You have
out.
to.
And I have, which ones we're going to fast pass and all this. It's insane how much work it is to go to Disney World. It's not like going to a random, amusement park and just kind of, I want to go on this or I want to do this. I mean, it is, you have to have it planned out.
Either that or you could just commit to doing what we do and you go like once every year and then you're just so experienced it doesn't matter. My wife likes it there, so it's an easy sell.
Yeah. We do every other, but I've always done it with boys. So like we have an 11 and 8-year-old boy that we're going, my nephews.
Right.
And it's a completely different experience with a 3-year-old girl.
Oh yeah. You're going to do princess brunches and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. All right, well, yeah, you get organized.
I only have like 6 months. I don't know if that's enough time.
But you gotta, and we're boring half the audience now, but you've got to sign up for character brunches like months and months, years in advance.
I missed it. I already missed the date. It's 6 months. 6 months you have to call, like when it opens at midnight and, be one of the first people to get through, to get in. It's insane.
I'm not making it up. Someday there's going to be a secondary market for character dining.
Oh, you can get like the off market, like
StubHub. Get your mini breakfast on StubHub.
That's actually a really good idea.
I'm sure Disney's already locked that down in their fine print terms and conditions.
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to find the next Uber. I think we need Disney's Princess Uber, where you just you have an app and they just Anna and Elsa pop up.
Oh, just whatever you do, pretend like the Frozen sing along in the theater doesn't exist.
Oh God, I was looking at that today.
No, don't. Just don't do it. Whatever
That's
you do.
The window point. Okay.
Oh,
Anna
it's
and
the
Elsa were
worst.
sick that day, honey. I'm sorry.
It's the worst, and it's not a bad show. It's the people that you're going to be sitting with who are singing along.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or make your wife go. Take up smoking. You can stand outside and smoke.
I refuse to go on It's a Small World. I've stopped about 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 trips ago. I think I just like, no, I'm done. There's no more of this. These creepy dolls are too much. So I put my foot down. That was my one. I put my foot down on.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to stop. The Grinch refuses to go on It's a Small World. I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on and talking Cavs and Browns and Spotify and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time, everybody, it's the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast.
Waiting for next year.